Okay, we're off and running.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. How are you today? I'm gonna take a sip of coffee, but if you don't know me, my name is Richard,
I'm Batty.
and we're with Legend Studios.
And this is our second.
Numero doso.
Yeah, this is our second top 5 listing video. If you haven't seen the first one, go back and watch it because it's pretty fun.
It was our top 5 Disney villains.
Yeah, top 5 Disney villains. And then today we are listing our top 5 vintage comedians.
Now, the cutoff point we decided on was 1970. And, man.
Simply because I'm not good with dates, and I'm like, I don't know. I like immediately had my list. I'm like, I don't know where any of those fall, but yeah.
Don't worry, I'll tell you when you're wrong.
Well, the 1970s I think is a pretty safe cutoff to the people that I listed. So I'm pretty sure I'm safe.
Okay. All right. So that's basically anybody from the silent film up through
70.
Yeah, I guess it would have been December 31st, 1969. Because January 1st, 1970, that's a whole new decade.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where our cutoff is. But we had fun talking about Disney villains, and we decided to keep it rolling because those of you that voted, this was the one that came in second.
This was off by 1 vote, yeah.
So that's why we went with Disney villains first, and here we are with vintage classic comedians.
Yeah. Should we launch the second set of options and then pick from those? Because the other ones that were there were missed by a pretty wide margin.
Did you want to mention them? Do you have them written down?
Not with me. I have the paper though, or it's on my laptop.
We can post it tomorrow.
Okay.
We can post it tomorrow, or even we'll do a Thursday show. We'll mention that towards the end here.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday live show, and we could also bring it up then because the following Sunday we'll have our next top 5.
Okay.
So we can do that also. But yeah, I guess now neither one of us knows what the other's top 5 listings are.
I'm actually in it because you obviously know
I had
many more. Yeah, he took forever. But you also know a lot more than I do. So, like I said, I had my top 5, like, immediately. I changed the order around, but I had, like, my number 1 forever. Like, I have my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But yours, you can add so many different ones. I know the order.
The order killed me.
Yeah, the order was pretty easy for me. I feel like at one point I'm going to have to, like, defend my choice.
Oh.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I started watching these with my dad, I think when I was 4.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was hard. It took me forever to get a list together.
I don't even...
Okay. So, I guess, without further ado, we're going to start off with numero 50.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to...
Number 5.
Number 5.
Alright. Alright. I don't have any pictures this time.
And she's phoning it in.
I am.
Now, I got a little bit of information here for my top 5. Let me turn to the right page here.
Oh yeah, we have fun trivia and stuff for these because I don't have like too much to say for mine. So
some of these, like, I'm not going to go into great detail about how they were formed, how they met up, what got them into show business. It's just going to be a little bit of tidbits from what I can remember, and stuff like that. So if they broke up, I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah.
It's just, going to be fun stuff.
Okay.
So I guess on the count of
3.
3?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Oh shit!
Oh, the Three Stooges.
Oh wow! I didn't think that was gonna be so low for you.
This was very hard.
And I wanted to emphasize Mo, Larry, and Curly. I'm not a big Shemp fan.
Even though
fine,
Shemp,
but...
when they were in vaudeville, it was Mo, Larry, and Shemp.
Yeah,
because they were Ted Healy Stooges.
All the alternatives after Curly got sick, he was my preferred. Like, I don't like Curly Joe at all.
Well, you've got Joe Dorita. He was Curly Joe Dorita, who finished out the run.
Yeah.
And then it was Joe Besser. And Joe Besser was the one after Shemp everybody remembered. Not so hard. That was Joe Dorita. And he was never given the name Curly because he didn't fit in.
Oh.
It was Joe Besser later who became Curly Joe Besser.
Oh, okay. I don't know. The only extra that I liked was Shemp. I didn't like the other two.
Right. Now they had a couple I really love with Shemp, and that was Sing a Song of Sixpence, and that was funny. Malice in the Palace, and Spook Louder.
Okay.
And those were my favorite with Shemp. Oh my god, I think I watched those. When I watch the Stooges, I have to watch those. They're so funny. But go ahead, and was there anything else? Did you have like favorite episodes or anything?
I don't, and that's why it's kind of at the bottom for me. Like I do like the Stooges, and I think they're really funny. It's just out of everyone I have listed, I don't binge them as much as I do some of the other ones. They're funny. They're just not as funny, I think, for me as the others on my list.
Right.
Other factors too, but when I get to that person, I'll...
Okay, so before I delve a little bit more into the Three Stooges, there were two that I had a hard time not squeezing into this list. And so I've got to do an honorable mention. And
I also have 2 honorable mentions.
Oh, then you go first. Who are your honorable mentions?
Buster Keaton. And...
You don't have Buster on your list?
No.
Oh, I really need to find out. Oh.
I know. That's why it was hard, because it was down between him and who I have on my list. And I'm like, oh, but I didn't watch him as much as the people on my list. That's why he didn't
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. If I did put him on the list, it would have been because he's like probably one of the most attractive people I've ever seen. The other, I don't know what the cutoff is for this one. I'm sure it's fine.
Well, is this your honorable mention?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Little Rascals.
No, that's Hal Roach Studios that did.
Yeah.
Another, and I'm not going to give out their name, but one of the characters from the Three Stooges, from the Little Rascals, was hugely influenced by a comedy duo.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that. You can talk about that if they're on your list.
They are on my list.
Okay. And those were
my 2 honorable mentions.
Okay. Yeah, definitely Little Rascals came to mind, and what a revolving ensemble that was. You know, my favorite is always when Spanky was little.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of the episode, but it was his parents mistook the sideshow actor for one of the parents' brothers.
Okay.
And he came from Borneo, and he was a wild native, and he chased everybody around. Eat 'em up, yum yum, eat 'em up.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yum yum.
Oh my god. They had one that I'm like, oh, this did not age well.
No, that whole era, and
I mean, it's the era.
Yeah. But with this, with
It didn't age. That one episode did not age well. That was
some of
that
the nicknames.
The nickname, that one part where they thought the little kid turned into a monkey.
Oh,
that
yeah.
didn't
magic.
That didn't age well.
I think though the whole point was the magic act. I think it could have been anybody. But the one thing is, before it became Spanky's Little Rascals,
yeah,
there were other characters that were different nationalities. You had Buckwheat, not Buckwheat, not Stymie, Purina was one of the main characters, and he was black. And it was that ensemble that didn't. They had their issues.
Yeah.
But they, with the kids, it seemed like the kids didn't care. I mean, they did have.
I don't think the kids. I don't think they realized it, especially in that era. I don't think it's one of those things like, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when Spanky was little.
Yeah, it was good. Those were funny.
Stuff.
Yeah.
But you can evolve the information on that with the comedy duo Spanky later.
Yeah.
Okay, so those were your two honorable mentions.
Yes.
Was Buster Keaton and the Little Rascals.
Yeah.
Okay, I have an ensemble.
Okay.
One of two. The first one I'm going to mention is Lucille Ball.
Oh, okay.
As an honorable mention.
Oh, is that why you made it the cutoff of the 70s? Because she was
still involved in television in the 70s.
Yeah.
But she had sold off Desilu Studios, which was, at the time, she was sole owner, but her and her husband, Desi Arnaz, had created together. And
I'm just now realizing, once you named it, all the people I forgot. I'm like,
oh, just wait.
Oh, God.
Just wait.
No, so, there's a ton that just came flooding back, and I'm like, I'm still pretty happy with my list.
Okay. So, Lucille Ball was one of the first female studio owners. The other one is a person on my list, and who became a co-owner with a person on my list, and of United Artists. And
okay. Wow.
But she formed Desilu Studios, and a few of the shows that they produced was Mission Impossible and Star Trek.
Wow.
And in fact, Star Trek, the company was like, this show's not doing well, you need to cancel it. And she says, no, we're going to keep going with it. And they kept going with it, and because of the cost of each episode, it almost ruined the studio, so she ended up selling. But she was a very smart businesswoman. She made out like gangbusters, even though she sold off the rest of the studio. I mean, she was very smart, but one of her credited acting roles, I don't know if you know this, was in the Three Stooges, Three Little Pigskins. And she was a blonde. She was a platinum blonde. Lucille Ball was in that.
Okay.
So
I don't remember that.
You're going to see how, for those of you watching, if you haven't heard of a lot of these comedians, they're all intertwined.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. So, honorable mention, number one for me was Lucille Ball. And she set the groundwork for comedians ever since. You know, and one comedian who was hugely influenced by Lucille Ball was Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
And who didn't love the Carol Burnett show? Oh my gosh. Okay, now the last one here. If you haven't seen this movie, it's just over 2 hours, and it is non-stop laughs. I can't tell you how many times I've watched this. From the time I was probably 6 until now, dozens of times. It's a mad world from 1963. Not the remade crap that they did.
Yeah.
This was the original. And just to give you an idea of how many comedians were in this, you ready? comedians and serious actors who also did comedy successfully. You had Spencer Tracy, Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Buddy Hackett, Ethel Merman, Mickey Rooney, Dick Shawn, I'm coming, Mama,
Mhm.
I'm coming. Phil Silvers, Terry Thomas, Jonathan Winters, Edie Adams, Dorothy Provine, Eddie Anderson, Jim Backus, William Demarest, Peter Falk, Norman Fell, Leo Gorcey, Sterling Holloway, Buster Keaton,
Mhm.
Don Knotts, Charles Lane, Carl Reiner, Arnold Stang, Jesse White, Jimmy Durante, Maury Amsterdam, Jack Benny, just to name a few.
Didn't the Three Stooges pop up?
Oh, I
in
didn't
there?
write them. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Three Stooges. I thought I wrote them down.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, the Three Stooges were in there as well.
Yeah. I remember their cameo.
They were the firefighters at the airport.
Yeah, I tend to remember most of Buster Keaton's cameos, like in that beach party where the blanket beach party.
Yeah, the beach blanket movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember him showing up in there.
Yeah.
Even as an old man, he was adorable.
But yeah,
that's one of those few movies where I don't know. I can't. The guy that does like I'm coming, Mama. He's like
Dick Shawn.
He's like the best part of that show or the the movie.
Yeah, Dick Shawn. And several of these comedians also went on to voice characters in Disney movies.
Yeah.
And holiday specials. You had Jimmy Durante.
Mm-hmm.
You had Dick Shawn. You remember what Dick Shawn did, right?
No.
He was. Oh no. He was either Heat Miser or Cold Miser.
Oh, he was Cold Miser.
Cold Miser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to definitely do those two honorable mentions.
Yeah.
The entire ensemble of this mad, 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 mad world to Lucille Ball.
Oh, I didn't even think of Lucille Ball. Again, with the tie-ins, Lucille Ball's tied into someone on my list.
Yeah.
In one of my favorite episodes of her show. And just for this one part. Oh my god, how many pages of notes do you have?
We'll have one for each one.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
Okay. So for the Three Stooges, again, you had the original with Ted Healy Stooges. You had Moe, Larry, Shemp, and Ted Healy. Ted Healy was an ass. He was a heavy alcoholic. Left the Stooges to go to Hollywood. The Stooges reformed on their own, became successful. He got ticked off. And it was like, well, you're an ass. Too bad.
Oh, I also have a fun fact about Curly.
Oh, good.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And so Shemp ended up leaving and formed Shemp Stooges. And he shows up on the list here in a little bit with some of the other duos. And then Curly stepped in, and the rest is history. Shemp came back, so Curly passed. Shemp came back. Curly got sick.
Yeah.
Shemp came in. Shemp passed while he was still a Stooge. They brought in Joe Besser. Joe Besser didn't fit in. He was most of the ones in the later shorts.
He's the one I think I remember.
Yeah. So he's the one that hated to get hit with pies.
Okay.
Didn't like to be hit. Not so hard. He's the one that they based a lot of the cartoon characters in the 70s was kind of his take in comedy.
Okay.
He didn't work out, so they brought in Curly Joe Dorita. And he's the one that started doing all the movies.
Okay.
One of the movies was, oh my gosh, the Three Stooges Go West, I think it is, and it was a Western with Adam West, Batman.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was a hoot and a half. So anyway, a little bit of trivia for you. So number 5 for both of us, surprisingly, is the Three Stooges.
Cool. Oh,
go ahead.
Curly, I guess in life was big on foster dogs.
Oh yeah.
And it's rumored that he rescued and rehoused about 5,000 dogs.
Yeah.
And I actually read that yesterday. I'm like, that is the cutest thing ever. And I thought that was really sweet.
Okay, so
I need to check my spelling.
we're doing number 4 here, so be patient. And now, this is where it got really, 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 really difficult getting numbers right.
All right.
Oh no! Wait a minute. I forgot.
I feel bad. I feel
forgot to
bad.
put the 4.
I think I saw yours.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, on the count of 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
Oh my God, Charlie Chaplin.
He
Okay.
was who I put down instead of Buster Keaton. Only because I've seen more of Charlie Chaplin than Buster Keaton. And what they have that I found similar is the innovation when it came to their stunts. And that's why I thought it was really hard not to put Buster Keaton on here. But again, I haven't watched more of him than I have anyone else.
Right.
Charlie Chaplin also had some pretty solid movies in comparison to others on my list. But he was... I think when you think of, like, vintage comedians, he's probably one of the first people that people think of.
In the silent movie era?
Yeah. And he is in the silent movie era, and that's
Absolutely
really hard to do. Like, he did make it to talkies, which is fine. But even as a silent comedian, I love his silent stuff. I do. It's really good. And yeah, he's just, yeah. I don't have anything else to say.
This, from here on up, is really hard. So you could ask me next week who your top 5, and that list would change in a second.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So I put Charlie Chaplin. Granted, he had a lot of great silent movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just fantastic stuff. And a couple of my favorites was Limelight,
Mm-hmm.
because Buster Keaton was dead broke, wasn't getting a lot of work. Charlie Chaplin brought him in, and they did a scene together. They did 2 scenes together. And personally, I don't think it was enough time for both of them to work together.
Yeah.
There was never any confirmed animosity between them.
Mm-hmm.
When they would do interviews, they always avoided talking about the other, not because they disparaged the other person. It's just they didn't want to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was hired to do Limelight, and it was after Limelight, I think a little bit more work picked up for Buster.
Mm-hmm.
And but a couple of things. Charlie Chaplin, one of my favorite movies is Limelight. The other, unfortunately, is another talkie, and that was The Great Dictator.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for both of those movies, both of these incredible movies, he was never awarded an Academy Award.
That's one of the reasons why I'm like, award shows can just go screw themselves.
Right.
They are the biggest joke ever.
So Charlie Chaplin was given an honorary Oscar
Mm-hmm.
at the 44th Academy Awards, and to this day, as far as I know, he is the only one that has received a 12-minute standing ovation. And while he was doing it, while he was standing there, he had tears running down his eyes, and he was blowing kisses to the audience. And he passed in '77, I believe. So they had the Academy Award, and it was just some months later. He was pretty sick. Yeah, that was the only thing I think it was the second he had received, and it was a rumor. He early in his career, he wasn't a fan of award shows,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave him an honorary Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
and the rumor was he used to use it as a doorstop. And then,
I mean, that's so baller. I can see that.
and as movies change and his outlook changed,
Yeah.
it the 44th Academy Awards, and it's on YouTube. You can take a look. I mean, it's over 12 minutes of everybody standing and applauding.
I will for sure cry if I watch that. I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
That is so sweet, though.
And the last one was when he first came over here to America.
Mm-hmm.
He came with another comedian who were roommates together when they came over here. And his name was Arthur Stanley Jefferson. And yes, it is one half of a comedy duo.
Okay, because I'm like, that's... Yeah. Okay, yeah. That
So,
name really threw me off.
That was his real name. So
well,
should I mention it now or see if they come up?
let's see if they come up.
Okay. So remember the name Arthur Stanley Jefferson. They were roommates. In fact,
That's so funny. I had no idea they were roommates.
Yeah. In fact, the boarding house that they were living in, you couldn't cook your meals in the room. So what happened was Charlie would play the violin to cover up the sound of Arthur Jefferson cooking. So all the sizzling and everything you couldn't hear because Charlie Chaplin was playing the violin.
Why did they have such a whack-ass rule?
Well, because the boarding houses then didn't have the building codes that you have today.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't uncommon for a small spark, an entire block would go up in smoke.
Oh, yeah, because everything's made of, like, rotted wood.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why. So...
That's crazy.
So a little bit of information there for Charlie Chaplin. Number 4 for both of us. That's 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think from here on it's going to separate.
But if you want to see Charlie Chaplin, he has a lot of silents out there, a lot of shorts. But if you want to see his genius, Limelight and the Great Dictator.
Yeah.
And that speech he does,
Yeah.
and it's always on social media, is from the Great Dictator.
What was I going to say? Actually, one of the few movies of Robert Downey Jr. that I have not seen yet is when he portrays Charlie Chaplin. I know. I have the DVD, but it didn't work.
Oh.
I might have stolen it from someone. And I'm like, well, joke's on me. It doesn't work.
Holy cow.
I know, I still haven't seen it. I'm gonna see if it's on Netflix.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I know Robert Downey Jr. was still going through some issues.
Yeah, that was during his dark days.
But I'll tell you what, his portrayal of Charlie Chaplin was fantastic. Okay, number 3.
I have seen clips of it, and I'm like, oh my god, he's such a good actor. Okay. Gotta check my spelling. Oh my god. I'm curious to see who your number 1 is, because I know ours is different. There's no way we have the same. Alright.
Okay. On the count of 3,
Mm-hmm.
2,
Yep.
Excuse me, 1, go. Buster Keaton.
Okay. Laurel and Hardy.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
them in your top 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've watched them probably the most out of everyone so far, including the Stooges. I think some of their skits tend to stick with me more than the Stooges does. I think the chemistry between them and the relationship that they had, the friendship that they had, I think impacts me more than anyone so far.
I can see that.
I don't know, they worked really, really well together, and Yeah, I think it's the chemistry and how they went about their skits that really stuck with me. So that's why they made it to my top 3.
Okay, so then, since you brought it up, Laurel, his birth name is Arthur Laurel Jefferson.
Yeah.
Stanley.
Yeah.
Arthur Stanley Jefferson.
That's why it threw me off because I'm like, I know that name, and when you're like, I'm like, oh, okay, I know who it is. Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy.
And then going back to the Little Rascals, yeah. And I always switch the names. I know who they are, but I always switch the names. Spanky got his inspiration for his whole like character from Oliver? Yeah, Oliver Hardy. Yeah, I always get their names mixed up. I don't know why. Yeah. And like I think if you know how Spanky is, I think you can pretty much see it.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely see it, especially when he was early on. As he got older, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
But on an interesting note, I mentioned to you what his last television role was.
Who, Spanky's?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot.
George Spanky McFarlane, his last role was an episode of Cheers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And,
I remember that episode. That was funny.
Yeah. Cliff was being his usual Cliff self.
Is that you? No.
Yeah.
It's like, that's you, isn't it? Oh, yeah. That guy scares me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Okay, so my number 3 was Buster Keaton.
I'm actually really surprised that he made it that far up your list.
He would have made it a lot farther. It's just the next 2.
Yeah.
And again, it could change. Buster Keaton was just... He was so entertaining with a deadpan face. And I want to say the last time he smiled in his silent stuff was in the Fatty Arbuckle short. And I don't know if it didn't come across right. He wasn't happy with it. But after that, it was just deadpan expressions. And for somebody to have a career like that...
In comedy with it, yeah.
I mean, that's just...
Yeah.
You know, and...
Great stone face.
Absolutely.
One of the reasons why I liked him so much is because of his face.
So he actually got his start with Fatty Arbuckle.
Mm-hmm.
Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, who had a great career, and it was stymied.
Yep.
And after years of being shunned and legal problems and everything, he had financial problems. Who comes to help him? Charlie Chaplin.
Mm-hmm.
Signed on the day he was supposed to start filming. He died of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Fatty Arbuckle, look it up. He was great as well. But
probably one of the most tragic
absolutely
lives. Like, that's... I hope that girl is in so much pain and hell right now.
Absolutely.
Like...
Absolutely.
That it pisses me off so much.
Yeah. And
it's really sad because... Like, first of all, don't fake something like that. But also, it's like he was such a like seeming like a good guy, but also like a really skilled comedian, and it's like he didn't deserve that.
No.
Like,
So now
so mad.
We've talked about Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
One of the persons that didn't make my list was Harold Lloyd. Harold Lloyd was doing the same thing around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see a whole lot of Harold Lloyd stuff. I grew up on Chaplin and Keaton, among the others. So that's the only reason, and the only reason I say that is I don't want to forget about mentioning Harold Lloyd
Those
later
who deserve
on.
to be mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's not here. But for those of you who don't recognize Buster Keaton...
what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Betty mentioned the Beach Blanket movies.
So stupid.
And
those movies are so
they're
dumb.
so much fun. They're so much...
They
didn't pretend to be anything else.
No.
But...
I think I've seen that movie like 3 times.
A wonky, crazy romp at the beach. That's all it was. And you had Don Rickles in there.
Yeah.
You had Buster Keaton. You had Paul Lynde. I mean,
I love Paul Lynn. Oh
it
my
was.
I always like in that era. I always like the gangs, like the big tough gangs, and it's like you look like such a sissy.
I can't remember
That's
the guy's
so funny.
name who was. Gosh darn it, something Slim. Not Detroit Slim, Milwaukee Slim. Anyway, he always ended his sentence with "bubby."
Yeah.
You're coming with me, bubby.
So stupid.
It's just, you have to watch it. If you don't like beach blanket movies, fine. They're
I get it.
Yeah.
But it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
so
don't expect
stupid.
anything meaningful out of it.
No.
They're just fun.
As far as a plot, it's there.
Yeah. But Buster's, two of his best movies were The General, The Navigator are 3, and Sherlock Jr. And those were just fantastic movies. And then, of course, cameo, short appearance in Limelight, and then after Beach Blanket. But during that time, he was also in an episode of Twilight Zone. And he was actually a janitor in a professor's laboratory, and he put on a time travel helmet. And he went from the 1890s to, at the time, was 1960, it was a future, so 1960 something, and hated it. Well, he met somebody there and came back with him to the past, and he hated it in the past because it didn't have any of the modern
yeah.
amenities. And it was, it was an interesting episode. Everything with Twilight Zone was really cool.
See, this is why he didn't make my list, because I'm not overly familiar with his work. I did not realize he made it to talkies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know Beach. Well, I don't know why I said that. Beach part, whatever that movie is, is obviously a talkie. I don't remember him talking in it.
Yeah.
See, I don't remember him ever talking.
Yeah. In fact, he was one of the few in the silent era that was looking forward to moving to talkies. And what happened was, he was convinced by other people to sell his movies and film rights and everything to MGM. And MGM wouldn't let him do any of the stuff he was famous for. Depression, alcoholism. It was just all bad for him. And so other people finally started giving him a shot, and he climbed back up again. But this poor guy went to the doctor because he had a coughing fit. He had a bad cough, lasted about a month, and went to the doctor. They didn't tell him he had cancer, lung cancer. And so the rest of the time he thought he had bronchitis. So he kept doing what he was doing and everything, and then he played a game of cards with his wife, went to bed, and died in his sleep. But they never told him he had cancer.
I mean, in that era, what could they do anyway?
This was in the 60s.
Yeah, I know.
But,
what could you do to treat
else,
cancer in the 60s?
Well, it was too late for him.
Yeah.
He smoked a lot, but he went out for walks, he was always active. He never sat around and did much of anything. In his autobiography, oh my God. In his autobiography, he was quoted as saying Charlie Chaplin was the greatest silent comedian of all time. And lastly, in vaudeville, Buster's dad would perform with a duo, and his partner was Harry Houdini.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that kind of leads into how he ended up with his nickname Buster. And it was all kinds of different things, and one was when Buster Keaton was a kid, he'd fallen down the stairs and then got right back up again. And Harry Houdini said, "Look at Buster there."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's to get your nickname from Harry Houdini.
That's one of the rumors.
What a badass.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That was really interesting. So those are our number 3. So Laurel and Hardy and Buster Keaton. Okay, so now we're going to move on to number 2. Number 2.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1, and Laurel and Hardy. Laurel and Hardy. Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
Well, now I really want to know who you have as number 1.
I know. That's why I'm like, he has no idea who my number 1 is. This far, I've watched them the most.
Right.
And they have probably the most memorable movies of all time. Out of every vintage comedian. Not even out of every vintage comedian, but even in like the horror genre, which their movies leak over to. It's so goddamn funny. It is so funny. And Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is probably one of my favorite movies ever. And
well, you know, that was the first horror movie
that we watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had gotten that from Disneyland.
That little cartoon that started, Nikki and I were getting scared, and you're like, no, it gets funny, trust me.
Do you know who animated that?
No.
Walter Lantz, who did the Woody Woodpecker cartoons.
Ugh.
Oh my god.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I do understand that they had a bit of a falling out, but their chemistry on screen at least was really funny, and probably some of the most memorable sketches is Who's on First, and like I don't know what the name of this particular sketch is, but that numbers thing that they always do.
Oh yeah.
And I think as far as Costello's approach to math is pretty similar to mine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, why not? That seems like a pretty legit answer.
Yeah, what was it 3 to 27 12 times or
they
something?
They had two different ones, yeah.
Yeah.
There was an age one, I think. And
yeah,
the age and then the math, and then the vacuum one. And that's the same one. Yeah, they had, yeah.
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 That's right, I forgot about the age one. Yeah.
It was so stupid.
You're 3 times as old as she is. Now you're 2 times as old as she is.
Yeah.
What are you doing to me?
Why would she wait for you? I was nice enough to wait for her.
Yeah.
Stupid. Yeah, they're so funny.
I know you mentioned the falling out.
Yeah.
When Costello died, Abbott read about it in the paper, and he cried the entire day.
Yeah.
They were already, they never
reconciled.
I don't think they reconciled before Costello passed.
Yeah, and that's really a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, as when they were working together, at least for what they presented on screen was so funny.
Yeah.
And even their stage performances.
Yeah, it was good stuff. It was great. Number 2, now I'm
out of everyone this far, my all-time favorite.
Okay, so my number 2 was Laurel and Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Yours was number 3.
Yeah.
All right. So as we mentioned earlier, Arthur Stanley Jefferson was Stan Laurel.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Babe Hardy, first name was Norvell. But he took Oliver, if I remember correctly, because that was his dad's name.
Mm-hmm.
So he took Oliver. Some of the movies, and every time I wrote one down, I chuckled because they're very funny movies. If you haven't seen Laurel and Hardy movies,
oh my God, excuse me.
What the hell? Sons of the Desert, Brats, A Chump at Oxford with an early appearance of Peter Cushing.
Oh, I remember that one, yeah.
Very tall, stands out. You can watch the movie and go, oh my God, that's Peter Cushing. He's not in very often, but he commands the screen when he's on there.
That's Peter Cushing.
Yeah. Bonnie Scotland, The Live Ghost, County Hospital, The Chimp, Night Owls, Hog Wild, Murder Case, and the ever classic The music box. That's when they were trying to deliver the piano up the stairs.
Yeah.
The same set of stairs. The Three Stooges tried to deliver the ice to.
The ice. I remember that skit, yeah.
Those stairs are still there today.
Are you serious?
They are still there today.
Where is it at?
It's in Los Angeles.
Ooh, we need to make a trip to LA when quarantine's done.
The only difference is what used to be fields, the stairs, and then the houses. Now it's houses. But it's the same stairs. They didn't change it.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Wow, LA.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's still there.
That's cool.
But I'm not going to go much into Laurel and Hardy outside of the fantastic chemistry they had.
Yeah.
They did have a bit of a hiccup.
They did.
When Stan Laurel was in negotiations with Hal Roach because the two of them had separate contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Laurel was paid a little bit more. Babe never had a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this. A lot of people say that Stan Laurel had the best reactions, the best facial expressions and everything. I'm on the fence here because I think Babe had the facial expressions. His deadpan expressions when Stanley would do something and he would just look at the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, apples and oranges because they both had different approaches to comedy.
Right.
You can't compare them because they're completely different in their take on it. So to compare their reactions doesn't make any damn sense.
No.
And it's like yeah, you're right. He has that. And it's like, look at how popular The Office is.
Yeah.
What do they do? Into the camera.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Stan,
He's so adorable. Oh my god. I will say, as much as you can't have one without the other for me in this situation, I did find him more funny out of the two simply because of how adorable and awkward he was.
Stanley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, that it wouldn't be as funny if it wasn't for
Oliver?
Oliver, yeah.
Yeah, Ollie.
Ollie, yeah.
The way they over-accentuated when he would fall, that poor guy.
In the Bratz.
When he goes down the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, so stupid. So stupid.
If you haven't watched Laurel and Hardy,
yeah,
and you want to watch one, just see what we're talking about. Bratz.
Yeah.
Or even the Music Box. Either one of those, and you'll get it.
I've seen Bratz more.
Yeah.
Than I have the Music Box, and that one, the whole part with him going down the stairs is just the dumbest thing ever, and it's so funny. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So her number 2 is Abbott and Costello. Mine is Laurel and Hardy. So now we're going to run to the big number 1 here, which I'm.
Once you see mine, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, and then it's gonna be like, wow, really? All right.
You ready?
Yes.
You do the countdown this time.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, I knew that was yours.
Mine was number 6.
This is number 6 for you?
Yeah. So
I knew once I saw what you put down for number 2, I'm like, oh, okay, I know it's number 1.
Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I can watch them the most out of everyone, including Abbott and Costello. Their movies are so whack-ass insane.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it speaks more to my sense of comedy than anyone else, because you have 4 if you want to count Zeppo. Well, yeah, there's 5, but I mean as far as like the ones that are always on screen.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
4.
Yeah. Yeah, Gummo and Zeppo were more the straight-laced.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's why I'm saying they are all like drastically different characters.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're all, like, comedy aside, they're all talented in their own way. And obviously they're brothers, but even brothers can have a falling out, but they work so well together and they feed off each other really well. And I think it's pretty common in this era to have, like, the most insane, like, what the hell is that kind of ending. There are movies that are like that too, but I feel like they have a better wrap-up than some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I don't know why, but I prefer that, because especially the Three Stooges, it's like, it's over? What the hell just happened?
Yeah.
They're pretty notorious for that. But these are some of my favorite movies ever, and Harpo Marx, out of all of them, is my favorite. I do go onto YouTube just to watch Harpo Marx, oh my god, Zeppo, just to watch them play their,
the piano and the harp.
and the harp, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because my understanding is Chico,
I'm sorry, that's who I meant, Chico, not Zeppo.
Yeah, no, Chico and Harpo.
Yeah.
Chico,
I couldn't think of his damn name.
rumor is, learned how to play 1 or 2 songs, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And the 1 or 2 songs he plays in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
He can't play anything else, which is crazy because the antics he does with his fingers and his fingering, and
yeah.
you would think that he was a maestro.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's funny as hell because if you know anything about these brothers growing up, they would, like, outside of their makeup, identical.
Yeah.
Like, they look identical. So they screwed with their teachers a lot. And Chico and Harpo specifically would change places. And Harpo, I believe, also plays the piano because he took Chico's place in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Harpo taught himself the harp.
Oh my god, I love him. And going back to Lucille Ball, my favorite episode was when Harpo shows up, and it's just so funny.
Yeah, when Lucy and Jesse and everybody went to L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a similar scene in one of the movies. I think Night at the Opera? No.
Duck Soup, yeah.
Between him and Groucho.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just...
Do you know it only took them 2 hours to film that? That's how fast they fed off of each other?
Yeah, that didn't surprise me at all. I mean, they did grow up with each other, so it didn't surprise me that they feed off each other so well. But probably the most well-rounded group out of all of them. And the most I can binge watch is the Marx Brothers, and then very closely followed by Abbott and Costello. But for the sake of, like, I guess the overall thing, it'd be the Marx Brothers for me.
Speaking of Duck Soup, they wanted this one particular director, and I didn't write down his name, I don't remember what it was, wanted him to direct a movie, and he flat out refused.
To direct for them?
For the Marx Brothers.
Okay.
So what happened was, their contract negotiations with the studio, the Marx Brothers left. When the director found out, he signed back on with the studio. Everything got worked out, the Marx Brothers came back, and he became their director. And what happened was, years later in an interview, they're like, why did you have such a hard time directing him? Those Marx Brothers are mad.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what you have is Duck Soup.
Yeah.
I got a little, like I said.
That's so damn funny. I can only imagine his reaction to the brothers would be like all of their teachers growing up. They're like, God, it's the damn Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
They're fucking insane. Yeah. Oh my god.
Benito Mussolini.
Okay.
You remember who he is?
Yes.
Okay. Banned
Where's this going?
Duck Soup.
Yeah.
From being played in Italy. Because he felt that Duck Soup, the character in Duck Soup, made fun of him.
Okay.
When the Marx Brothers found out, they cheered. They were elated.
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
Oh no, Mussolini doesn't like our stuff.
Yeah. And the last one was Duck Soup was English slang for something easy to do.
Was it really?
Yeah. So instead of, that's easy, that's a piece of cake, that's Duck Soup.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. English slang is so stupid.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Here we go.
Easiest duck.
Okay.
That's gross, by the way.
Yeah.
Ew. That's ugh. No.
There was another saying, why they picked duck soup. Not only for that, it was you take cabbage and carrots and peas and onions and no duck and make a soup. And once you try it, you'll duck soup for the rest of your life. It was something stupid.
What the?
Yeah. Oh.
This is stupid.
The other scene that was in there was a classic hat exchange that they were doing. It was Harpo, Chico, and another Eddie somebody or other.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept swapping the hats and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Harpo and Chico, and when I watched the Marx Brothers, loved Groucho. This Is Your Life, everything, I love Groucho.
Mm-hmm.
But when those two,
I
couldn't wait to get them on screen at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
And Chico with his really bad Italian accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
It was actually really sad that he ended up developing that Italian accent. I mean, obviously, they're Jewish, but growing up where they did, he played Italian, so they didn't get the crap kicked out of him, because he got in fights a lot.
Yeah.
So he played as an Italian in life growing up, so he didn't get beat up for being Jewish, which is really sad. But, at least that came out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a pretty good choice.
I want to watch this now.
Duck soup.
Is that your favorite one out of all their movies?
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, oh my gosh, the mirror scene and the hat swapping. I mean, every one of those movies has something, it's, wow.
Yeah.
Especially when the two of them get a hold of some musical instruments, Harpo and Chico. And
anytime they're together, it's just so funny.
Yeah, you just sit there and just...
It's
like changes the whole dynamic of the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, there were a lot of musicals, and they have a lot of musicals, pieces and segments in the movies. But those are just, they stand out head and shoulders above everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was hard bringing them at my number 6.
Yeah.
And
excuse me.
Which leads me to my number 1, Abbott and Costello, Bud Abbott and Louis Costello.
So funny.
And again, the first horror movie I showed Batty and my other daughter Nikki. We had just gotten back from Disneyland, our first time. We also went to Universal Studios, and I picked up a video cassette of
just
Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Yeah. And that was the first horror movie I ever showed him.
Yeah.
But interestingly, and I've got a list of some of my favorite movies there and why, but in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, you have Glenn Strange, who played the monster, Bela Lugosi, who played Dracula, of course, and you had Lon Chaney, who played the Wolfman. Well, in one scene, they were getting ready to film, or while filming one scene, Glenn Strange twisted his ankle.
Okay.
It was Lon Chaney who ended up wearing the monster makeup, and I'm not going to say what scene. You decide for yourself, because you can actually see what happened to Glenn Strange. Why does he look different? And that's why. Lon Chaney was a monster for one day.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So these are some of my favorite movies of Abbott and Costello. In no particular order.
Okay.
Buck Privates. That is where they had they're shooting craps. And Lou was like, I never played. And he'd roll the dice. Boxcars! What do you mean boxcars? Where'd you hear that? Oh, walking by the pool house or something like that. And, Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Hey, where did you hear that?
It's so stupid, yeah.
And of course, Shemp Howard was in that.
He was in that, yeah.
This is after he had left and formed Shemp Stooges.
Yeah.
There weren't a whole lot of Shemp Stooges movies or bits, so it became Shemp on his own.
It's like the Marvel universe. Everything ties together.
Yeah, right? We're coming up on the Infinity Wars here.
Oh, God.
Hold That Ghost, The Time of Their Lives, which is the one time the one time, if I can remember correctly, where Bud and Lou weren't partners in the movie. The time of their lives took place, started at the Civil War, and Bud's relative was a traitor. Mm-hmm. And he ended up, Lou found out about it. His character went riding off with another person's fiance, and they were both shot. They were considered traitors. Mm-hmm. Well, it was Bud's character. So what happened was, time went on, and they came back as ghosts. So she came back, oh God, what the hell was her name? And Lou came back, and Bud was trying everything he could do to right the wrong, because he felt his ancestors had wronged these two. They weren't traitors. Lou's friend that he was trying to get word to when they were leaving was General George Washington.
Okay.
And
I don't remember this movie at all.
It was, oh God, what was her name? But anyway, the only way Lou could disappear as a ghost was to shake like this.
Oh yeah, now I remember it. I remember that. I think I just remember the end of it, because you were like, you gotta watch this part. I'm like, what?
Yeah, the only time he would run into the wall as a ghost, and he was like, okay, and he has to shake really hard, and the other girl, she would shake, and yeah, it was the only way they could disappear.
Yeah, I remember that now. Just that part, though.
The naughty 90s. This was the first time they had done Who's on First on film.
Oh my God.
It was also the first time they filmed it, and you can actually hear the crew laughing.
Yeah, I remember that.
And this is on YouTube also.
Yeah.
And that's genius. Yeah. That is just straight genius. Of course, Abbott and Costello made Frankenstein. Yeah, it's those I could watch again and again and again. In fact, a lot of people, Lou Costello flat out refused to do Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And the director that Bud and Lou worked with a lot got involved in the project and talked Lou into doing it. And but there's a lot of people that feel that Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Meet the Mummy, The Invisible Man, hurt the horror industry.
No, screw off.
And Lon Chaney was one of them. He was like, this is just making a mockery of horror films.
But he was in the movie, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Then shut up.
Yeah. And it's like, it didn't. If anything, it reinvigorated the horror genre, you know? But there was something else I was going to add on top of that. Of course, Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man came after that. But at the end of Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, who voiced the Invisible Man? Do you remember?
No. Oh. Yeah, wasn't it Vincent Price?
It was Vincent Price. Yeah. And it was disappointing that he didn't show up in The Invisible Man. Then you got Boris Karloff in Abbott and Costello Meet the Killer, and Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I like that one.
And the funny thing was, he did not want to play the monster again. He did some publicity stunts to promote the movie, but he wasn't in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. But he shows up in 2 other movies later, Boris Karloff. So, anyway, that's my top 5.
Yeah.
And
pretty good.
Yeah, you had an interesting mix there.
Yeah.
So, with that being said,
I'm gonna go watch Duck Soup now.
Those of you watching, please leave in the comments what your top 5 vintage classic comedians or ensemble that you love watching.
I actually think I came up with what our next listing should be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think we'll do that, but we'll still post the other options. That way we can get number 4 out of the way. So
that's our list. This Thursday coming up, we're going to have a live video because we're going to be auctioning off a couple of pieces.
Yep.
Did you want to show yours, or do you want to wait?
Let's wait.
Okay, so we're not going to show you. But
the video's long enough right now.
yeah. So anyway, there you go. How long is this? Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's going to take me forever to load this up.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, comment. We want to hear what your top 5 Disney villains were. We want to hear what your top 5 classic
Vintage
comedians are. Whether you agree with us, whether you disagree with us.
Disagree all you want. I'm not wrong.
Up to 1970.
Yeah.
Because, of course, after 1970, oh my God.
Whole different type of comedy.
I don't know if I could do... Well, I'd have to say probably the most groundbreaking, my number 1 would be Richard Pryor. Number 2 would be Steve Martin. George Carlin.
I was going to say, where's George Carlin on that list?
I would have to say number 3.
Holy crap, yeah.
Number 4, especially during the 70s and early 80s, Gene Wilder.
Oh, Gene Wilder, yeah.
What comedy teams? Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
In Stir Crazy.
That's such a good one.
Silver Streak.
Oh, I love Silver Streaks, yeah.
Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I mean, Gene Wilder in Young Frankenstein. You know, so I guess you'd have to have Mel Brooks in the mix too, because he directed those.
Yeah.
And who was one of the co-creators and writers of Blazing Saddles? Richard Pryor. So...
Well, we don't have to do that listing. Now you just listed yours.
Yeah, I think it would be different coming up. And that's why I thought
think that
the
one
70s would be a good cutoff.
That would, going into the 70s, would actually be hard for me because there's movies that I like, but I couldn't pinpoint, except for, like George Carlin, I couldn't pinpoint actors. Only movies for me. So I think that'd be a good listing to avoid because I wouldn't be able to list anything.
Right, and I think that's why I thought it would be good to cut it off at 1970.
Okay.
Because if we had done of all time, I couldn't do a list.
No, there's no way because you can't compare vintage comedians to George Carlin.
Yeah.
You can't.
Lenny Bruce.
Or even Mel Brooks. You can't compare those two. You have to do it by genre.
Yeah, that would be... So that's why we cut it off with classic vintage.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. Anyway, ramblings are over. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes.
Tune in this Thursday for our live auction and leave comments. So we also have something to talk about during the auction. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about.
Yeah. Leave questions too if you have any questions.
Yes, questions. Plenty of questions are good. So once again, I'm Richard.
I'm Betty.
We're with Legend Studios, and we're saying be safe. If you celebrate Easter, have a safe Easter.
Stay inside when you celebrate Easter or stay in your own backyard.
And be safe and smart.
Yeah.
Please.
Please.
So we can get the hell out of this.
Yeah. Wear a mask if you go outside.
Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.